Hello, I'm Rick Harp. This is your APTN News Brief for Tuesday, October 12th. We begin with recent revelations about policing related to the controversial Line 3 pipeline. Owned and operated by Enbridge, the 1,700-kilometer Alberta to Wisconsin pipeline is now fully operational, despite the constant efforts of demonstrators. And over the course of Line 3's construction, some 900 were arrested over many months. But according to investigative reporter Hilary Beaumont, we now know that extraordinary enforcement by state police was privately funded. That is, by Enbridge itself.
So I've been looking through the receipts of police that they've reimbursed to this fund set up by Enbridge in Minnesota. They have reimbursed everything from wages for pepper spraying protesters to their burgers for when they're out responding to protests and eating a meal. They're reimbursing this to an Enbridge account that the company set up in Minnesota to pay police, essentially. This is a new arrangement that we haven't seen before. The state has actually asked Enbridge to pay police. I spoke to Tara Huska, who's with Jinyu Collective. She's one of the frontline Indigenous protesters in Minnesota. She was actually pepper sprayed and faced rubber bullets at one incident recently. She has raised this as a massive concern. She's said that this is a violation of the public trust.
If you or someone you know attended so-called Indian day schools, this next item could impact you directly. That's because Canada has settled another class action lawsuit related to the residential school era. John Kingman Phillips is one of the lead lawyers for the suit. He explains who's eligible and who can apply for compensation should the deal proceed without an appeal.
So the key to this, it starts historically with the Indian residential school settlement, which covered the residential scholars at specified residential schools. Our claim started up after that for the day scholars who were excluded from the residential school settlement back in 2007 when that was negotiated. So we started up our action to cover those who were excluded. The students who were attendees at residential schools following May 30th, 2005. So both the estates or descendants of persons who have passed away since May 30, 2005, and the living survivors from residential school who attended as day scholars or as non-residential scholars. We cannot implement the settlement until a 60-day appeal period expires on or around November the 24th, 2021. The one beauty of what Canada and our clients have negotiated is a very, very simplified claims process that will allow people to get into the system both without having to provide any kind of documentation and without having to relive any of their experiences from the time that they were in the residential school. That will begin sometime in we hope, December.
And finally, back in August, we brought you the story of an encampment in Wetaskiwin, located south of Edmonton. We told you about how some of those living there had been staying in an indoor shelter till the city shut it down. Chris Stewart recently returned to that camp, curious what people will do with winter on the doorstep. He files this update.
Craig Halbertson is the owner of the Rock Soup, Greenhouse, and Food Bank. In August, he helped set up 55 tents on and beside his food bank after the city of Wetaskiwin prematurely ended a lease on a shelter called The Hub, operated by the Camrose Open Door Association. Halverson says the city fined him for helping and even tried to close his nonprofit and evict him. The city forced the encampment to move behind the Walmart on city property.
Here we had a connection, a family. We had bathrooms, running water, power, heat, laundry facilities. We had Wi-Fi. There they don't have any of that. They don't have power. They don't have water. There's no way to warm up. And it's cold out there right now. There's fire pits, but there's no consistent fuel.
Carrie Lou has been at the Hub, at the Rock Soup, and now behind the Walmart. She is looked up to in this little community. With nighttime temperatures now in the negatives, Carrie Lou says a permanent indoor solution is needed now.
They're getting colder. Like I had 4 Pendleton blankets, like the thick ones, covered up. And I had my winter jacket on. It's getting colder. Some of these people, they stay up all night just to keep warm by the fire.
In August, Mayor Tyler Gandam told APTN that closing the indoor shelter was due to an increase in crime. However, the RCMP told APTN that crime was actually down. The mayor also told APTN he was expecting a solution for the homeless before the winter. So far, this camp is the solution. Halverson says there are not enough supports. The Open Door Association provides medical, mental, and addictions help, but a bylaw prevents them from operating on city property. They have to provide services through a fence on private property.
People are being denied access to services. The city is currently preventing the shelter from their staff being able to access the site. Bylaw has been enforced. Bylaw is being encouraged to enforce a $600 fine for any staff on site. These are the medical professionals, the counselors, the addictions therapists, the nurse, the doctors.
Jessica Hutton is the CEO of the Camrose Open Door Association, which ran the indoor shelter. She says it's heartbreaking that her staff can't go into the camp.
It's absolutely beyond frustrating. I think frustrating doesn't sum up what it is anymore. I think it's horribly sick to us to have to stand on the fence line and watch what's going on and watch people who are so sick and be completely unable and powerless to go and do what we know we do best.
With winter arriving, the situation for the people in the camp is getting worse.
There are people that have died since we closed the hub, and those types of things really concern us. When we can't get on to check on clients and it turns into a monumental emergency, that's obviously very concerning, that there might be people who won't get medications or food or water or help or any of that because we're not allowed on the site right now.
She told APTN that 4 people have died since my story in late August. Carrie Lou told APTN she recently fell and now has a metal plate in her arm.
Oh, I didn't realize that having a plate in your arm when it gets cold, it really, really hurts. It's like I cried in my tent for 2 hours in agonizing pain. I don't know. We need a warm building.
Wetaskiwin Mayor Tyler Gandam told APTN that he is too busy preparing for October 18th elections to comment on this story. As for now, those staying here will continue to live, try to stay warm, and hope to find an indoor place to stay before temperatures plummet. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Wetaskiwin.
That's your APTN News Brief for Tuesday, October 12th. I'm Rick Harp.